our panelists are still with us, standing by. Donna Jackson, Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin, Wendy Patrick, back with us. Just your overall reaction there, Wendy, to what was reported there about January 6th, how that it will be aired, revealing findings on Thursday. It seems like every mainstream media outlet is going to carry this in prime time, which means that is where the highest viewership is. Wendy, how concerned are Americans about these findings, these hearings, and your thoughts on it?
Sean, you queued that question up perfectly. How concerned are Americans? Not as concerned as they are about the kitchen table issues that we've been discussing. Food and fuel, baby formula, gas. I mean, these types of issues really are more important to the average American than going back over what happened on January 6th. Not that that isn't important. And that's why it's such an interesting question as to why tease it up like it's some blockbuster movie that's going to be coming out this week? You know, why tease it up to the extent to try to really improve viewership? I mean, Democrats both drive and dine, and it's a bipartisan passion to make sure that our communities are safe, that we can have affordable communities, that we clean up our streets, that we don't have guns on the streets. I mean, all these issues that we share in common. It'll just be interesting to see if viewership is as predicted, is as expected. Probably not, given the amount of time that's already been devoted to trying to drive up those numbers. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, Axios is reporting, and we said this yesterday, that the former ABC News president, James Goldston, is advising the committee on sort of producing this special surrounding this live hearing. Governor Walker, do you think that's going to impact the numbers of people tuning in? Is there a curiosity out within the American public to find out more about what happened when we all watched it unfold on TV when it did?
No, I mean, the bottom line is, I know in my state in Wisconsin, across the country, people think this is an absolute joke. People have moved on from this issue a year and a half ago. What they care about is their gas prices going up almost every single day. They'd love to have hearings on that. They'd love to have some action on that. I think anybody who does tune in, even for a few minutes, is going to be outraged that these knuckleheads in Washington aren't spending their time actually dealing with issues that matter to the American people. So I think it's going to backfire on them. All the more reason people don't want them involved in things that matter to their lives. Yeah, and I want to point to things that matter to your lives, just to keep this obviously fact-based even for our viewers. What our panelists are talking about, it's cited in polling. You've seen that in polling. The number one issues, economy, gas, inflation. It is not what happened with Jan 6, and to Wendy's point, not to downgrade it and say it's not of importance, but what is top of mind for Americans. And cutting into programming, that is their choice on that. Peter Navarro, I want to go back to that. There was a tweet that he put out talking about how he was shackled and handcuffed at an airport. He wasn't fed. I believe he said no food, no water, solitary confinement, denied access to my attorney illegally. And he goes on to talk about that. I want to play, as we've seen this, I want to play, this was before this happened. This is Navarro and Stinchfield. Listen to this.
This is about a bigger thing than me or this committee. The show trial that's going to happen next week, everybody needs to know that that's a weaponization of Congress, bad for the Republic. I'm standing up for principle here. We need Trump back in the White House.
Donna, just your overall thoughts. Doesn't necessarily have to be about his statements there, but just how things are handled in terms of anything with this committee. Shackled on his feet, is cuffed. Your thoughts on this and how, again, this was executed?
You know, this committee is not bipartisan because all of them hate Trump and Trump supporters. That's number one. Number two is this is about being able to legally target conservatives or anyone that disagrees with them. And they're using this platform to be able to federalize and take over the rights from states. They talk about voter suppression. No, what they want is legalized voter fraud. 70% of Black Americans support an ID card, but they're still pushing that narrative so that they can guarantee they stay in power using that as a platform. They're investigating January 6th, but the Summer of Love with BLM riots cost the American people $6 billion in damages. 30 people were killed, including police officers. Yeah. But of course, we don't say a word about that. It's all about one day. And by the way, these same people didn't support Bush when he was elected and didn't want to certify that election.
Again, these primary election days, since we are in one today, it is really astounding to see how many people come out and have their voices heard by voting, as Wendy was advocating for earlier in the hour. In Georgia, if we look back at a few weeks ago at the primary there, record turnout. So we'll wait and see if there are any federal changes coming to elections. Panelists, if you could stay with us, one more topic to get to.